Welcome to Real Estate Radio Power Investing, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate investing. Your host, Tom K. Wilson, provides you with insight and guidance from his years of experience as a successful real estate entrepreneur on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate, and much more. Now, here's your host for Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
Thanks for tuning in to our Real Estate Radio Power Investing program, where we empower you with the education to maximize your investing success. We're broadcasting from the Silicon Valley corporate headquarters at Wilson Investment Properties, the sponsor of Real Estate Radio Power Investing. I'm Tom K. Wilson, your host for this weekly radio program on multifamily and commercial investing and syndications. If you can't make the live show, you can catch our podcast on wilsoninvest.com. You can also go to our education venue, which is bacom.club, BACOMM, for information on a free monthly education meetup venue on commercial and multifam investing with world-class speakers like Robert Kiyosaki and Bruce Norris and Dr. Doug Duncan, Chief Economist of Fannie Mae, and many others. We also go to wilsoninvest.com to sign up for our newsletter that's put out every 2 weeks on the economy and real estate across the United States and macroeconomics, which we follow closely. Also, by doing that, you will be on our list of people that get access to our commercial syndications. So for $50,000 a share, you can invest in commercial syndications that normally only institutional and high net worth and high-level investors can invest in, and get fabulous returns and be totally passive with no liability. So we encourage you to sign up so you can get access to that, because the SEC requires us to only, for most of our deals, to only make them available to those that have a relationship with us. So we also love to have guests on this radio program who talk about commercial properties and syndications. And today we have Beth Azor with us, who is in South Florida. She's a past chairman of the board and founder of the Florida State University Real Estate Foundation. She has a book she's written on Don't Say No for the Prospect, and she's a 33-year veteran of commercial real estate industry and a lot of experience, especially in retail. Beth, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks so much for having me.
So nice to have you. So Beth, let's start off with telling your story. It's interesting how people get in the real estate business. Most people I know did not start off with that as their first career, and they at some point got smart enough to figure out that it was easier to make money and a lot more fun by doing that. Sounds like you were involved in real estate from your original education. So has it been your whole career in this industry?
So my parents, Tom, were in residential real estate. And so when I turned 18, like all good residential real estate families, the kids get their real estate license. So I obtained my real estate license at 18, and all during college, during the summers, I sat open houses and helped my parents with their business.
And in spite of that, you decided to stay in the business.
Well, actually, while I was doing it, I used to say to them, I don't know how you guys do this. I would never do this. And upon graduation, I got a job. My goal in life was to run the Olympics one day. I loved logistics. Yeah, I loved logistics. I loved special events. So I got a degree in English literature and communications. At one point, I was thinking law school, and I graduated from Florida State, and I got a job at the American Heart Association in Miami, and I was a special events coordinator. And I absolutely loved my $11,000 a year salary job. So what did I do? I worked open houses and residential real estate on the weekends. So for 2 years straight, I worked 7 days a week, did my Heart Association job, which I absolutely loved, and did real estate on the weekends. And after 2 years, my $11,000 job got up to 23, a whopping 23. But hey, I doubled my salary. And my weekend job was approaching about 10 to 15 a year. And my executive director, God love her, pulled me into her office one day at the Heart Association, and they said, Beth, we love you, but your ambition exceeds us. So you should go do this real estate gig full time and just volunteer for us. And that's what I did.
Well, what a gift that was.
Such a gift.
Amazing.
So I joined my residential firm, and in about 3 weeks, I was miserable because I was sitting in a trailer at a residential development waiting for people to walk in the door reading People magazine. And so I went from 7 days a week to 5 days a week sitting in a trailer, just waiting. And because when I had worked on the weekends at the residential job, we were very busy. But during the week, not so much.
Is this all in Florida?
Yes, South Florida. So I went to the developer, and I said, we need to have a marketing plan. We need to go out and get people. And he's like, no, we're building luxury homes. You just sit in the trailer, and people will come in.
So may I ask about what year this was?
This was 1985.
Okay.
So I was miserable. I lasted about 3 months, and a young woman who was brought in to help us on Mother's Day weekend because we were going to have a big flurry of activity, she had worked for a commercial real estate shopping center developer, and she said, oh my gosh, you would be perfect in leasing or in commercial real estate. And I said, commercial real estate? That's got to be worse than selling land. That's got to be worse than this. Isn't that selling land? How boring. And she goes, no. There's this thing called leasing. And my developer builds shopping centers, and you find people to open bagel stores and dry cleaners, and you help them fulfill their American dream. And once you do that, they'll invite you to every bar mitzvah, communion, wedding. You're part of the family. And I said, sold. I want to do that. And she said, well, you can't come work for my firm because my boss's dad is your boss, and he'll be mad. But there's this other company in Miami called Terra Nova, and they have a training program. So I called on Monday the company called Terra Nova, and I said, who's in charge of your training program? And they said, a woman by the name of Donna Abood. And I said, Donna Abood that went to Florida State University? They said, yeah, she went to Florida State. Well, Tom, she was a sorority sister of mine.
Oh, my gosh.
She picked up the phone, and she said, Beth from Florida State? I said, yep. And she goes, you're hired. Just the boss. And 18 years I was there. I grew from rookie leasing agent all the way up to president. When I started, we had 11 people, and when I left, we had over 150.
Oh, my goodness. What an exciting story. That's great. So you've been... So after a few short years, you spent most of your life around commercial, and a lot of that was leasing. And then clearly, from your experience here, I see you've grown quite a portfolio of ownership.
Yes. When I was a leasing agent, my boss at the time, who eventually became my partner, after I was leasing for a couple of years, 2-3 years, he came to me and he said, "Hey, we're going to buy a grocery anchored shopping center. Do you want to put in, $50,000?" And I said, "No, I don't have 50. Do you want to put some money in?" I said, "Well, how much money do I need to put in?" And he said, "I don't know, 50,000, maybe 25,000." I said, "Well, I don't have that." And he goes, "Well, you're making like 60 to 80,000 a year. How do you not have that?" I'm like, "I'm spending it." He goes, "Well, you shouldn't do that. Well, save your shekels because we're going to come back around." And then 2 years later, he came to me again and he said, "Okay, we're buying another center. Do you have any money?" I'm like, "I don't have any money." And he's like, "Shame on you. How do you not have any money? Now you're making 100, 125 a year." He said, "I'm spending it." And he dragged me down to the local bank, Tom, and he co-signed a $50,000 note for me.
Oh, my goodness.
And I invested in my first retail property. I was the leasing agent. We improved the NOI so drastically in 6 months of ownership that we refied out.
No.
And I got to pay the bank the $50,000, and we owned it for, I think, 22 years, and we sold it a couple years ago. And I think the return of our initial investments were in the 600% range.
My goodness, boy, you were hooked.
I was hooked. And how great was it that guy did that?
Isn't that what another gift? I often talk to people about major milestones and crossroads in their lives, and it's amazing how wonderful that is. And sometimes at the time you don't realize that it's really a crossroads, and in hindsight you do. In this case, you probably both are true. Let's go take a break here, Beth, and we'll be back with you in a moment. We have Beth Azor, a 33-year veteran of commercial real estate, who talking to us about her life experiences, and we're going to ask her what she's learned through this process and what takeaways you can get for your consideration of doing investing in the same thing. So stay with us here on Real Estate Radio Power Investing. It's Tom K. Wilson, your host for this program that comes on weekly. We'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. Streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, visit TomWilsonProperties.com. That's TomWilsonProperties.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. We have Beth Azor with us today, a 33-year veteran of commercial real estate business. So, Beth, we were talking about before the break there, we're talking about crossroads and milestones and people who influence our lives. Isn't that amazing how just a certain event or a certain person in your life that steps up and does something like you just described can just totally change your life?
Unbelievable. And then after, so I was worked for him, and then eventually became the president of his company and his partner. And then when my son was 4, I was a single mom, and I knew I couldn't be working the 60 to 70 hours I was working. So we negotiated a parting of the ways, and he was very sad, I was sad, but I needed to not be the president of a huge company with multiple employees and clients, etc. But when I left, I was a partner in I think 6 deals with him. And then since then, we are down to 2 deals that I am partners with him and other partners that we had completed partnerships with. And since I've been gone, my goal was to buy 1 deal every other year because basically it's me and my assistant. And every once in a while, I'll have a couple interns running around. And we've built up the portfolio now to 5 shopping centers. I developed one of those 5, and now I'm developing another property. So when that one's completed, I'll have 6. I did give back a supermarket anchored center that I owned with BlackRock during 2010, that global crisis we all experienced.
Oh, was there something happened back then?
Yeah. And so lots of experiences. I've been on my own for 15 years. And just a lot of great people. But you had said something earlier before we got on the air. Picking the right partners is so crucial. So that was one of the biggest lessons I learned.
Isn't that amazing? How I have a good friend who's been on the radio program. Has been out to speak for us a number of times, and her name is Beth Clifford, and Beth is a multinational, multi-billion-dollar developer who told me a number of years ago that her whole business elevated significantly when she started hiring more on character of partners than just experience or competence. You have to have both, of course, in most cases, but that's number one. If you get the right partner, then they will be smart enough and have the right integrity and smarts to go get the right product in the right markets at the right time.
Absolutely. We had a property, it was 42,000 square foot retail deal, and bought it in May of 2008 at the height of the market. Mm-hmm. And we had 2 vacancies, and we had LOIs, letters of intent, from Starbucks, Chipotle, and Panera Bread. So I started vacating mom and pop tenants to make room for those three nationals. And I know you can see the picture forming. As I'm vacating these tenants to make room, the crisis hits us. And not only are these three not opening stores anymore, Starbucks, I think, closed 600. So I bought it with 2 vacancies and turned around not a year later and had 14 vacancies. And the equity that I had raised to do the tenant improvement money for the 3 tenants to help them build out their restaurants, which many national retailers require, we had also raised some initial equity to do a facade improvement. So not only did we go through the equity we raised to do to give the tenant improvement money in the facade, but I had to do 3 capital calls. So as I'm going capital call after capital call after capital call, I said to my partners, and one of our major tenants moved out, we had a loan come due. Luckily, the lender knew I was the better person to be running it than them, so they actually extended our loan, which was shocking with an anchor tenant who had moved out. And I went to the partners and I said, look, while we're in this situation, I'm not going to take a management fee, and I'm not going to take any leasing fees. I will accrue them till hopefully one day I'll have the ability, we'll be successful enough to get those paid back. But while I'm asking, including me, I'm a partner in the deal too. I put my own money in. As long as I'm asking the partners to put in money, then, I'm not going to take any for the management or the leasing of it.
What a wonderful thing to do. Why put another cut in someone that's bleeding to death, right? And if you don't save the project, then you won't get anything anyway. So,
right, and that deal, we've owned it now 10 years, bought it in 2008, so 11 years this year. We had a situation where an urgent care, like in a $5 billion urgent care company signed a lease and decided to not open halfway through construction. We got $1 million payout from them. So we were getting ready to sell it because we were getting fatigue with the deal. I'm sure you've been there, deal fatigue, where it was just about to start breaking even, but we still maybe would have had to have done a capital call. And we just got lucky to where this huge Fortune 100 company decides not to go forward with our deal, but they're on the hook for 10 years of rent. So they had to pay us off. And we negotiated $1 million settlement. So I was able to pay 10 years of built up and accrued pref and 45% of everyone's initial investment. That was a happy day for me.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, we're here in Silicon Valley. We certainly know about all the venture capitalists on Sand Hill Road that keep feeding more and more money into our startup companies in hopes that the next round they'll make it. So at some point you got to if it's not going to go, you got to quit. But it's tough. Each round you see the potential, and it's hard to figure out where to draw the line. So that's great. That turned out good.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some takeaways that you learned through surviving that big storm, the biggest storm we've had since the Great Depression? What are some takeaways that you could share with others about how to prepare for and how to deal with and the resiliency of surviving a storm as it goes to real estate investing?
So I think that the biggest kind of confirmation for me was the real estate was phenomenal real estate, like the bones of the market. We bought it because it was across the street from a university that had a goal of doubling its enrollment. And to this day, they've achieved that goal, which now the property is flourishing, and we own 2 more, one on either side of it. So we own 3 across from the university. And we had heard that there was a hospital that was sniffing around to come into the market as well, which now is under construction. So understanding that, and for retail, daytime population is very important, and traffic counts. And this was a property that was parallel to the street with 66,000 cars. So the real estate was fabulous. Therefore, it came out of it whole. What I learned is many of my friends who are investors, and again, we bought at the height of the market and at a very healthy price. Probably it was, a 6 cap at a time where, that was a very healthy, price to pay. Where other people were going down, maybe 2 submarkets over and paying 8 and 9 caps, $50 a square foot, but around the property, multiple empty shopping centers, even in the heyday. So it just confirmed that we tend to pay a little over the mark. I'm not out there looking for the significant value add. I'm looking for healthy markets that, in good times or bad, there's enough daytime population to service the retail, the restaurants, the services, the business, so that if there is a dip, our center is one of the best in town. It's not the one that we bought for cheap and it's going to eke by, because those are the ones that are still not in our market, are still not back.
No substitution for making sure the fundamentals and bones are solid, right? If you have that, then you've got the foundation to build upon. We're going to take a break here with Beth Azor, a 33-year veteran in the commercial real estate industry in Florida. Stay with us on Real Estate Radio Power Investing.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. Streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, visit TomWilsonProperties.com. That's TomWilsonProperties.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. We have Beth Azor with us today, a 33-year veteran in commercial real estate in Florida, and we're talking about her experiences going from early years in her career of residential onto commercial, where she has mostly been involved in retail, and she was able to get some properties even at the peak of the market before the crash that she was able to make successful, because the fundamentals and bones of what she picked were those that allowed her to phoenix up after the crash. So Beth, and you've mostly been involved in retail, in fact, all retail properties. About how many projects have you been involved with?
Oh boy, in my career, I've been involved in over probably 200 shopping centers. Or in my past life with my company, Terra Nova, we were the largest third-party provider for life insurance companies and pension funds. As far as ownership, I've probably owned over 15 assets, probably close to 1 million square feet. Okay,
wow. So let's talk a little bit about the retail industry. It's taken a lot of bad press in recent years with the advent of internet. Mm-hmm. That would lead many to believe that all brick and mortar is going to be scraped from the face of the earth. And I think a lot of people draw some broad brush conclusions from the headlines that they see, or from a little bit of information that is trying to create some drama and press. But when you ask people, do you really think that's going to happen? And where are you planning on the internet to get your hair done and get your dog seen and to share a glass of wine with a friend? Then they say, okay. So do you find that you get maybe some folks that have a little pushback and are nervous about retail because of those that kind of false headline?
Absolutely. And there definitely has been disruption, for sure, with Amazon. And but I will say this: I do travel around the country and do teaching and speak a lot, and I ask the audiences, how much do you guys think online retail, of the 1.4 trillion of annual retail revenues in our country, what percentage do you think are online? And I get answers from anywhere from 30% to 50%. It's crazy numbers. And the number, Tom, is really currently 7%.
7%.
And then I say to the people in the audience that are as old as me, I'm 58. So I say, okay, for you, those of you over 50, do you remember this thing called the catalog? So Sears, Penny's, and Spiegel, and they, raise their hand. Yes. I go, well, guess what? During the era of the catalogs, like the 60s and 70s, the catalog sales represented 10% of the annual.
That's interesting. I never heard that number, and that's kind of the old era equivalent of internet, isn't it? Order from your home instead of driving to the store.
Exactly. So now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be paying attention to Amazon. For sure we should. But, when people say, is retail dead? I say, well, you know what? Bad retail's dead. Toys R Us, who didn't take advantage of this fabulous opportunity that they had to create an experience in their store, they let Home Depot or Lowe's have these Saturday morning, let me bring my kid and build a birdhouse. Right? Toys R Us had a phenomenal opportunity and dropped the ball. Currently you hear Kohl's is going to add nail salons. No, DSW is adding nail salons. Kohl's is bringing in Planet Fitness. Restoration Hardware is adding restaurants. So the retailers that are smart are bringing the experience into their stores. The experience is like nail salon, you can't get on a computer. Fitness, you can't get on a computer. And eating, food and beverage. I say that right now retail we have the 5 new F words. And this is clean for your audience. The 5 new F words are the top in retail today. That's food, fitness, furniture, and the reason furniture is since the global crisis, a lot of people are reinvesting in their homes. Fun, trampolines, escape rooms, et cetera, axe throwing. They're calling that competitive socializing, where the millennials are getting together and going to compete socially, top golf. And then the last F, you've got to give me some latitude here, physicians. So medical.
That's terrible.
Medical is just, with the baby boomers, our age group, just expanding. We're going to need more and more hospitals and more, different types of medicals.
We're going to take a break here, and we'll be back in a moment and talk a little bit, Beth, about the book she recently written and her thoughts about the market moving forward. So stay with us on Real Estate Radio Power Investing with Beth Azor, a veteran of commercial real estate. We'll be right back.
I've got the power.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. Streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, visit TomWilsonProperties.com. That's TomWilsonProperties.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. I'm Tom K. Wilson, your host for this weekly program on commercial and multifam and syndication business that we're in. We have Beth Azor with us today, who's a veteran of the commercial real estate industry in Florida. Well, just when everybody thought that brick and mortar was going to go away, here we have the largest e-commerce company in the world spend $13.7 billion on 460 Whole Food stores.
Whole Foods. And
then they start opening up Amazon books, and then you have to wonder if that was a strategy all along.
Exactly. What online retail is finding out and what traditional retail is finding out is in today's culture, with us, the citizens that can get information at a push of a button, they have to be all things to all people. So they have to be online. So Macy's and traditional retailers have to be online, and online retailers are finding out that when they open a store, their online sales go up. Macy's when Macy's closed their store, one of their stores in Manhattan, their online business went down 30%. So it's all interwoven.
Mm-hmm. It really is. We've closed on a power center, maybe 18 months ago, and it did have 4 big box anchor stores in it. And some folks thought, well, it's big box. Why are we doing that? Well, do you think we just picked any big box? No, we picked ones that we did deep dive research on, and we found they were all opening new brick and mortar stores. Their internet component associate was actually maximizing and increasing and leveraging their success. One was Burlington Coat Factory. Well, most people still like to try on clothes. One was Michael's. Most artists like to go touch and feel and see the products and so forth.
Right.
So I think if it has a in-person and touch and feel service component, it's still strong.
Absolutely.
So it's very interesting how you have to be very, very careful about not having broad brush conclusions.
For sure.
Yeah. We're going to take a break here, and we'll be back in a moment and talk a little bit, Beth, about the book she recently written and her thoughts about the market moving forward. So stay with us on Real Estate Radio Power Investing with Beth Azor, veteran of commercial real estate. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. Streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, visit TomWilsonProperties.com. That's TomWilsonProperties.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Power Investing, Tom K. Wilson.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. I'm Tom K. Wilson, your host for this weekly program on commercial and multifam and syndication business that we're in. We have Beth Azor with us today, who's a veteran of the commercial real estate industry in Florida with a lot of experience in retail, and she's recently written a book called Don't Say No for the Prospect. Talk to us about that, Beth.
Sure. I find that young people and vets, and really, Tom, a lot of vets, we have these negative thoughts in our heads. Maybe from a prior experience, I'm not sure, but I find that all day long, we think, oh, well, I'd like to buy that, empty Bank of America. Oh, no. And then we immediately, something is in our head that says, well, the price is going to be too high, or they don't want to sell, and we don't take action. And then we drive down the street 2 weeks later, and we open up the newspaper and we see that closed and someone else bought it. And we're like, darn it, why did we do that? So the book is full of stories of when I've done it and I have not done it. And it's just experiences that I've lived with and I've learned from when I train and bring in a lot of interns and young people who call me for advice. And they say, well, I had this idea, but, the guy in the office, the corner office who makes a lot of money, but he's kind of older, said, oh, don't try that. I did that 20 years ago. It didn't work.
I'm surprised how often I run across someone that says, oh, Tom, I heard you about this great deal you had or this opportunity that you took and how successful this and that was and how lucky you were.
Right.
And, I feel blessed, but not so much luck. I think everybody has a lot of opportunities that are presented to them, a lot of doors that open, and it's amazing. Most people, I think, tend to walk by open doors and don't step through. Would you agree?
100%. 100%. I was at a city council meeting for a charity that I was trying to get my local community to give us some grant funding. And while I'm in this commission meeting, there's 100 people in the room. The town that I live in decides that they're going to outlaw strip clubs. I didn't know that we had that many in town, but I knew we had one. And the one that we had was on a Main and Main intersection. Mm-hmm. So the next day I get to the office, I look up in the tax rolls, I find out this older couple in Jacksonville, Florida, 4 hours away, owns this strip club. So I call him up and I said, did you hear what happened at the commission meeting last night? And they said, no. And I said,
maybe you should.
Yeah, our town is outlawing strip clubs, and I want to buy your building. It was a freestanding building, 8,000 square feet. And they said, really? I said, yeah, I'll send you the minutes from the meeting. I courted them for the city had given the strip clubs 2 years. Like in 2 years, you have to be out of business. I courted these people for 2 years. I went and had tea in their living room. Yada yada yada. Persistent, respectfully persistent. And in the end, I won the deal. But in the end, the strip club closed, and all my competition swooped in, and I ended up winning because I had created the relationship. I had invested into the connection. I had invested the time. And
you had not even locked it up, but you had developed and locked up a relationship.
Yes. And it's hilarious how many people would come up to me at shopping center conferences and said, I don't know how you got that. I was after that for like 3 months. It's just, you have to be persistent. But yes, I think a lot of people walk by the center that I'm building now. There's a two-story 1970s office building, and they were trying to sell it, and it was just really run down. And I just saw it was on a Main and Main corner, and I called up Starbucks and I said, I have this crazy idea. I'm looking at buying this building. It's got 24 tenants in it. They go with all their leases and options. It goes to 2024. But if I could start vacating, lowering the occupancy, I think I could get the town to agree, if I could alleviate the parking demand, to let I build a drive-through building for you in the parking lot. Would you go off the main corner? It's still on a major street, but you'd go off main corner. Would you do that? And they said, yes.
And Beth, thank you so much for being on the program. It's been very enlightening. I've enjoyed talking to you. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in once again to Real Estate Radio Power Investing. And remember to go to wilsoninvest.com, sign up for our newsletter. You'll get access to syndication deals that for $50,000 a share, typically you can have ownership in commercial and retail buildings like we've been talking about today. So thanks so much for tuning in. Beth, thanks again for being on the program. And remember, the only thing that matters is what you do next.